Hey, April Porter. Welcome to the Plan to Prosper Small Business Academy. How are you today?
Oh, I'm excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to have you here. You're going to be broaching on a topic that we've never touched on in the Plan to Prosper Small Business Academy. But before we get into that, tell me who you are and what you do.
My name is April Porter, and I am the CEO and founder of the company Ask April Porter and the founder of a program called the Infinite Franchisee. I'm a former attorney and multi unit award winning franchisee. And what I do is I help small business owners and franchisees fill the gap between their business model and the strategies that they need if they want to extract themselves out of the day to day so that they can open multiple locations and really scale to what we call swag, which stands
Oh,
for sanity, wealth, and gratitude.
can I steal that? Thank you. I love that. So let's back to the beginning because I think most of our academy members are the traditional sole proprietor. They might be an LLC. So explain to us what is a franchise.
All right. So a franchise really starts with a great business model. And it could start with somebody like many of your listeners who are sole proprietors and they've got it going on, right? They have a product or service that they are a rock star at providing to their customers. And they've created systems and processes and put those in place so that it can be duplicated. And then they could become a franchisor, and in order to become a franchisor you have to create what's called a franchise disclosure document, which is about 150 pages long and it's governed by the Federal Trade Commission, and then a franchise agreement, and then they can start selling franchises. Now, franchisees are the people who have a dream about owning a business, but they don't necessarily have an idea of what to do to make themselves successful. They don't have a product or service, they just know they want to be a business owner. Or maybe they're really passionate about a particular product or service, but they would rather find someone who's done it before, who's done all the trial and error, and they'd like to pick up a winning proven model and run the play. And so franchisees find franchisors that they connect with and they buy a franchise. And the franchisor is essentially selling them the right to use the brand name and the processes and the systems to build their business. So, in actuality, there are a lot of franchises out there that people consider chains, right? Like, oh, I don't want to eat at a chain restaurant. I want to eat somewhere local. Well, all of those chains, if they're a franchise, have a local business owner that is responsible for building that business from the ground up, regardless of the fact that it's tied to a national brand.
And the benefits we can talk about. So I have to say McDonald's because I think that's the most famous
It was actually
franchise
the
that we can
first
speak of.
franchise.
Really? The
Yes.
very first. So they're the OGs. They set the standard of what a franchise is. And I guess the beauty of it for a customer is that I walk in any McDonald's and I know what to expect. So is that a benefit? So if you're looking to be a franchisor, you're looking for something that's transparent like that people don't know the difference in which, or are you able to make it unique at each location?
I think it really depends on the type of product or service. So like McDonald's or anything in the food industry, the franchisor is going to regulate the quality of the product, right? They're going to get the same supplier to supply the hamburger buns
Gotcha.
and the
Okay.
hamburger patties so that you as a consumer, you know exactly what you're getting, you know what it's going to taste like, you know that you're going to enjoy it when you walk in. And that is truly the success behind some of those brands. But then there are other brands that have the bones of what is going to be provided, but it's more reliant upon the personality of the person providing it. So that could be like a service such as, I mean, there's dance studios out there that are franchises, right? So each dancer has their own style, their own personality. You could teach the same dance to 10 dancers, and each one of them might give it just a little hip here or a shoulder there and a flare, right? So it just depends really on the type of franchise that you're getting into. But overall, they all will have systems in place that make it so that the consumer can rely on having at least an understanding of what type of customer service or what type of product they're going to get.
Okay, so let's talk about how money is made. So as the franchisor, I have the bones, I have the structure. So I make money how? Selling franchises and then they're reoccurring. So explain that part.
Yeah, so if I decide to become a franchisor, then I sell the opportunity to be one of my franchisees for a franchise fee. And that could be really any number. I know franchises that require $1,000 for their franchise fee, and then there are franchises that are $75,000 just for that franchise fee. And that gets you that means that you've been approved to be a franchise and you sign a franchise agreement for a certain term. Most terms are usually 10 years. And then every month, once you open, every month you pay a royalty. And that royalty is a percentage of your sometimes your gross receipts. It's a percentage, and that you pay every month in addition to your franchise fee.
But in exchange for that, you as the franchisor are providing some kind of support or marketing to on an ongoing basis.
Correct. And this is where franchisees really should be working with someone when they're investigating a franchise and they're so that they know the right questions to ask. Because unfortunately, like every industry, you have rock stars and then you have people you don't want to be in business with, right?
Right.
So in this you really want to make sure that your investment is worth it. You're going to get the ROI. Now what should be happening from on the franchisors is they should be creating a national brand. So they're doing marketing to get more locations so that you do have a brand that when you put your next location up, people already know what it is and they're ready to come see you, right? So that's one aspect of it. But also, they need to have, like I said, the systems in place. They need to be training you so that you can walk in and start being successful on day one. They need to be innovating, right? So they're coming up, they're keeping their eye forecasting on what's coming down the pipe in the industry and how can we be ahead of the curve. And they're saying, all right, we're going to now roll this out and this is going to help you in business and help you stay ahead of the competition. So they should be doing that. They also
So they should be earning that royalty. They
Oh,
should be.
absolutely. Absolutely. And the last thing that they need to be doing is getting you bulk purchasing power. So just like if you go to Sam's and you buy, the big old toilet paper per roll, it's cheaper. Well, when you're an individual business owner and you're buying your hamburgers from the local restaurant supplier, you should be paying more than when the franchisor has set up multiple locations across the country to buy from a supplier. The volume, they should be able to get that wholesale price down. So it should create a better margin for you.
So tell us how you help those folks. I guess you help people on both sides, the franchisor and the franchisee. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah.
So you help folks on. So tell me what a firm such as yourself would help in doing that. I guess you would help us review the contract and the agreements before we get into it,
That's
or
actually not where I step in. So where I step in is most franchisees, they are so excited when they are, it's their opportunity to live the American dream. And so they're going into a franchise many times with really, really bright rose colored glasses on, right? People are telling them, oh, it's going to be hard. You're going to be tired. And they're like, I've been tired before. I can do it. I'm excited, right? and, and so generally what happens is when they get into a franchise, at first it's like drinking from a fire hose. They're getting so much information from that franchisor. They're learning the model. They're learning how to market for the first time maybe in their lives, how to do sales for the first time, right? So it's just overwhelmed city, but they love it and they're learning quickly. At some point, they master what the franchisor has to teach them and things are going well. And then they start having a million other questions and they want to go faster, farther. but yet their franchisor isn't giving them any more training or any more help than the basics. And that's where the franchisor franchisee relationship can sometimes break down because franchisees don't understand. They're like, "Hey, I'm paying you all this money." I My dog is coughing.
What's the dog's name? We must
Dexter.
know. Hi, Dexter. Dexter's
Dexter.
fine.
There you go.
Is Dexter okay?
He's fine. He's old and he started doing this weird coughing thing when he wakes up anyway.
How old is he?
He'll be 15 in September.
Okay,
And
okay.
yeah, he's deaf, so, I can't even, like, say, "Hey, leave." Leave the room.
No, we love this is real entrepreneurship. And the beautiful part about being your own business owner is that you can bring Dexter, he can be there on the podcast interview. Dexter actually I'm going to make a proclamation. He's an honorary member of the Plan to Prosper Small Business Academy. Boom, we've done it. Okay, move on.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Let's see if I can pick up where I left off. So, once franchisees have mastered what the franchisor teaches them, they start to feel like, well, I'm paying you these royalties, but I want to do more and you're not giving me more resources. That's where franchisees can get confused about really their responsibility is to bring something to the table as well, and it's business acumen. And many times they came from a corporate job where they were an employee. So no one's really ever taught them how to be a business owner before and how to focus on growing the business instead of executing day to day tasks. And that's really where I come in. And I start teaching them strategies that are tried and true business strategies. They apply to any product or service, but that they're things that allow them to develop employees as leaders so that the employees can do the day to day and grow the company while they can level up into a strategist and start thinking about expanding into multiple territories and being able to handle staff at each of those locations.
Understood. So this is a crazy question. I hope you don't get mad at me.
Not at all.
Can you explain to the listeners the difference between a franchise model and like a multi-level marketing model? Because there is a difference. And
Yes.
and some people might be blurring the two, but I just want to make sure that we clear that up.
I think that's a great question. So the differences are pretty extreme. I mean, generally, you're going to be able to get into a multi level marketing opportunity for a few $100s maximum, right? You might have some quotas that you have to hit, like you have to order every 3 months and you have to order a certain volume, but that's about it. And the multi level marketing company, they're going to take their money out of the product. You might get a 40% discount, right? Let's say a product is you're going to sell it for $100, but you're paying 60. So when you sell it for 100, you're going to make 40, but if you give a discount, that's coming out of your pocket, not out of the multi-level marketer's pocket or the company's pocket.
So is it so I find that people who have been in the multi-level market it's kind of restrictive as to how you can sell. Do you have similar restrictions in the franchisee, like where you can set up, who you can sell to? Like how much does that the restrictions impose on your ability to make money and do the strategic stuff you're talking about?
Well, it shouldn't in that respect, it should not restrict you from making money because the franchisor, part of what their job is to do the research to find out how to optimize your
Mm.
profit margins. So, but there are restrictions. When you sign a franchise agreement, you are buying a single territory. And that could be determined by zip codes, it could be determined by geographical radius, or maybe like a county, right? That's your territory. And if somebody else wants to buy a franchise in the next county, they can, and that's their territory. And you can't actively, market in their territory. They can't actively market in your territory. So those are some of the restrictions. But then there's also restrictions that are similar to an MLM. Like for instance, when you're promoting your company on social media, you have to do it according to the brand standards. You have to use the right colors, the right fonts, the right trademarks, right? You can't go out and do a marketing campaign that you come up with completely on your own that isn't in alignment with what the company stands for. if you do that, then they could have issue with it and they could take action and say you're not following your franchise agreement, right? So there are certain things you might have to use certain equipment or certain quality equipment. If you're a restaurant and you run out of hamburger buns one day, then you really aren't supposed to go down to the grocery store and buy a different quality hamburger bun, right? You have to plan better and stock your inventory appropriately
And
because
that's
that
the standardization you're talking about, and teaching your staff to monitor those things, and so you aren't standing there all day counting the buns.
exactly, exactly. And so you're not, giving out a hamburger and your customers are like, this tastes different this time. This tastes funny. What's different? Well, I got gluten-free hamburger buns because that's all they had, So
I like that. I'm very excited about that opportunity. So, where would you tell people to go first to look for information if they want to learn about either side of it, the franchisee or the franchisor? Where would you say what did you say, Federal Trade Commission? Which
the
commission did you
Federal
say?
Trade Commission, so there is the franchise rule, and that's kind of what the Federal Trade Commission put out. I can't remember originally when they put that rule out. It's been amended just a couple of times, but it gives the standards that franchisors should be adhering to and what needs to go into that big 150-page document that I mentioned earlier, which is called a franchise disclosure document. Now, if people are wanting to learn about being a franchisee, then they need to find a franchise broker or franchise consultant. That's my
Mhm.
recommendation. Now, the tricky part is that many times you won't know the right questions to ask to really vet this person and find out if they know their stuff, if they have a good inventory of franchises to show you, and if they're able, or what are their standards for determining what is a good franchise or a not so good franchise, because it may be different than what you would believe in your heart of hearts. And that's because the franchise brokers ultimately get paid by the franchisor when they help someone find a franchise. So you do need to know that they're trying, like if
They're
they're going to get paid more from
incentivized.
one franchisor than another, right? What about the recommendation? So if you're looking for what kind of, well, let me go to the franchisor side. The franchisor side, oh, this is like, this section of the industry is just wrought with bad practices, in my opinion. So if you have a great company and you want to scale it with franchising and become a franchisor, the first question I would ask you is, why do you want to be a franchisor? If you
Mm.
want to be a franchisor because you think it's an easy way for you to open more locations and make more money, you're probably getting into franchising for the wrong reason. If you want to be a franchisor because you believe you have a great concept that if other people could just run businesses exactly like you did, you could fulfill their dreams, right? The franchisee is your new customer. So if it's your passion to help franchisees build a dream using your vision and your model, then you're getting into franchising for the right reasons. So, to start asking those right questions on either side, if you don't have somewhere to turn, that's why my company's name is Ask April Porter. So, because we have the resources, we have the answers, we have the connections, and we can steer you in the right direction. And we do most of that for free.
Wonderful.
So if you have a question, just reach out to us and ask. In fact, we run the only Facebook group that is 100% dedicated to franchisees. And it's free. People get in there, they can ask us any questions, but
So,
that
what's the
way
name of the Facebook group?
it's
We'll
called
also put it.
it's
I'm sorry.
Franchisee Infinite Success.
Okay, we'll also put that in the link in the show notes as well.
Perfect.
So this is a crazy Eureka question. So are franchises normally associated with a physical location?
Normally is kind of an odd word because they can be or they can't be. Now, most of the
Don't have to be.
time,
Okay.
they don't have to be. Most of the time, many franchises are associated with a physical location or possibly service vehicles. So you may see service vehicles that say 5-star painting driving around your area. Well, there's not a home office, like a storefront for 5-star painting but that is a franchise that somebody's running out of their home, and then they have, um, different painters that have, or
Understood.
Molly Maids is a good one where you might see Molly Maids
Ah,
cars, right? But somebody could run that out of their home.
so that and so a business that's like that may be that's where you the restriction may be territorial. This is the area you cover.
Well, every franchise is territorial
Okay.
as far as
See, I
where
need
you.
this education.
I know, it's okay. It's a lot. So every even if you have a storefront, like for instance, I had fitness facilities. We had actual gyms, kickboxing gyms, and we had a 3-mile radius. So that meant that I could market in my 3-mile radius. Now, if I didn't have a franchisee that was next to me, I could market farther. But if somebody bought that territory, I couldn't market in it. And
Mm-hmm.
then if somebody that lived 10 miles away from our gym, if they wanted to come to our gym and sign up, they absolutely could. I just couldn't go pick them out and pull them in.
Understood. Understood. I think I'm getting a more clear understanding. So tell us all the ways that we can connect with you. We're gonna make sure we have everything in the show notes. But this is I'm excited because I like to learn. But I just want to make sure that we're connecting with you and to get more information and ask April when we have those questions. Where
Uh,
can we find you?
Oh, 100%. So, like I said, we have the Franchisee Infinite Success Facebook group. So that's for franchisees and small business owners because small business owners struggle with the same thing our franchisees do. And then we have the Infinite Franchisee podcast, which you can find on Apple and Spotify and everywhere else with podcasts. And that's where we're giving out business strategy, talking mindset. Sometimes I get a little philosophical, but you can find us there. And then we have a clubhouse that's called the Infinite Franchisee as well. And then if you think you want to franchise your business, if you want to become a franchisor, you want to have a conversation around that, then just go right to our website and set up a consult with us. And we're happy to talk you through it and figure out, is your business really um, primed for franchising?
Wonderful. So I'm so excited to enter into this conversation and really talk about a whole new avenue of making money. So we'll ask you this. So how so we know as we as entrepreneurs do a lot of different things. Is how doable, I don't have a better word right now, is it for me to run a franchise and also do other things? Because is it something you have to focus on, your attention? What would you recommend there? Because sometimes as entrepreneurs, a little scattered in our attention.
Yeah, I do. I'm an entrepreneur and I have shiny object syndrome just like all the rest of you. So well, the really kind of unique thing about franchising that people I don't think realize when they're first getting into it is that let's say you had a flower shop and that was your business and it's just rocking and rolling and busting at the seams and you decide you want to become a franchisor. Well, you've probably spent a lot of time and focus on the flower shop itself. And your job has been really getting flowers in the hands of the community. Once you become a franchisor, your job is now growing a national brand.
Mm,
And your customer is franchisees and your product are franchises. So your job's now to sell franchises to other business owners. So already you kind of have to split your focus because you have to have your marketing in place and understand who your customer avatar is that you will sell a franchise to. But then you have to have your finger on the pulse of the flower industry and of the way your flower store is being run by a rock star team and what's coming up in the industry and how can you innovate and all those things on the flower subject as well. So you kind of have to have your toes in two different businesses in order to be a
mm.
franchisor to begin with.
I'm following. I'm tracking now, and I think that it's very interesting to me that it kind of builds a community in itself because you're amongst people. You're building a little. Well, it's a company, even if they're separate entities. You have people who are like you who are doing the same thing, share ideas. Maybe you have a convention. I love a good convention.
Yes, there's conventions.
So and I guess all of that will be covered in what you provide as a franchisor to the franchisee is covered in that franchise fee. So you got to really uh, as we do in business planning, really figure out what those numbers should be. So don't just come up with a number for the franchise, the initiation fee and the royalty. You really got to figure out what you're going to provide for that. So I can see where some planning has to start even in the infancy of building a business. So I think that's awesome. It really is good. So I appreciate your time today. Is there any wisdom you want to leave for us before anything profound that you or Dexter have to tell us before we
Oh,
leave today?
well, that's kind of putting on the pressure, asking for something profound at the end of the day. But
It doesn't
no,
take much to wow.
I would say, for any business owner, this applies to any business owner, whether you're a small business, independent small business owner, a franchisee, a franchisor, is that you really need to understand that if you wanted to make flower arrangements and if you wanted to make do the flowers for the wedding and be the person who's creating the beautiful bouquets, then you probably shouldn't have become a business owner, because your job, when you decide to become the business owner, your job is now growing the business. It's not making the flowers. So if you're getting into business because you're like, I love flowers so much and I'm so passionate and that's what I want to do all day, then go find a job with an amazing florist
Wow.
and be the designer. Because because once you're that business owner, it's your responsibility now to pay the payroll of your employees who are providing to their families. And you can only do that if you grow the reputation and you scale your business.
And you're able to pay your bills and not get kicked out of your house.
Right.
And so that's some of what I run into when people come in as coaching clients. They're trying to how to make it work. And you can't sell everything for $10. You got to really figure out how you're going to cover your costs, or it's not a business. And then we
100%.
have the people. Then we have the people who don't like to look at numbers. So there's that.
Well,
I don't know. I
and
don't.
on that note, here's another little piece of wisdom, whether people want to hear it or not. When you're trying to sell your product and service, stop assuming that the person in front of you has the same wallet you have. You
I
know,
like that.
like
Yes.
they are in charge of their finances. You are not. That is not your
Correct.
business. And you got to hold to
Correct.
your value. So,
I have another whole level that goes on to that. I always tell people, even the expenses of your business, even your taxes aren't your business. You're supposed to sell enough. That's your customer's business. You're supposed to sell enough that covers all of that stuff.
mhm.
So there it is. So I like when people come on and they say the stuff that I normally say, because then it doesn't sound like it's just me fussing at them. So thank you for that. That's why I asked for that wisdom.
Yeah, you're
But
welcome.
thank you. Please come back again. We want to know what's going on in the franchise industry, what we need to get into, what we need to get ourselves together. If we're running around with our heads cut off like chickens, I want you to settle us down and tell us how we can move over into franchise ship. Is that what it's called?
Franchising.
Franchising. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I coined the phrase. If you ever write that, just credit me. You don't owe me
I do. I
anything.
love
I
it
make
though.
it
I
worth.
think that should be what the community is called, franchise ship instead of friendship.
Wow.
Mhm.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, April. Thanks for spreading your knowledge here, sharing it here with the Plan to Prosper Small Business Academy. Come again.
I'd love to.